The physiological duration of an emotion is 90 seconds, but the way we relate to that emotion can make it last forever. If you've ever seen ducks fighting in a pond, you might have seen that they get really aggressive. They nip at each other, feathers everywhere. And then when it's over, they move away from each other and they flap very frantically, releasing all that energy. They don't think, how dare that duck do that to me? I can't believe she did that. I'm gonna get back at that duck and then wait for 2 years and actually get back at that duck. We are the only species that hold on to emotions in that way.
I'm sorry. See? Like that.
So I challenge you to the 90-second rule. The next time you're in a funk, you have 90 seconds to change your focus, your language, and your physiology to change your emotional state. Now let's talk about depersonalization. We've all felt hateful at work. I know I've been in situations where I felt like I was being dumped on the entire problems of the world. And we've all felt hateful towards our colleagues who stepped on our tails. I watched a Netflix documentary about Rachel Hollis, who is a motivational speaker for women. She does this thing called the Women's Conference. And on day 2, she does an exercise called Stand Up for Your Sister. Basically, you're given a piece of paper that has boxes on there followed by sentences. And the sentences move from things like, I have suffered from anxiety, I have suffered from depression, and they become more and more intense to, I have been sexually abused and I've considered suicide, lots of horrible things. Everyone has to mark the boxes that they identify with, and then they fold the paper up, and then they're instructed to pass it around like crazy. And they keep passing it around left, right, front, backwards, until it's virtually impossible to know whose paper is whose. And then they open the paper. And as each sentence is read out, if your box is marked, you're asked to stand up. And in that way, you're not standing up for yourself, but you're standing up for the other person. Beautiful exercise. The most shocking thing about it is that as each one of these sentences are read, at least 50% of the room stands up. And when sentences like, I have kept these problems to myself because I was afraid of being judged, or I hate my body, those sentences, almost the entire room stands up. And everyone is in tears. It's a very emotional exercise. We replicated this exercise for the staff at my clinic, and it was very healing. I can confidently say that it brought us closer together. You see, we're all suffering. And when it comes to our patients, they're not coming to us because they're healed. They're coming to us because they're broken. And we forget that common experience of suffering. So when you're starting to feel depersonalized, reconnect to compassion. Notice where you're coming from. Are you tired? And maybe that's why you're irritable. Notice where they're coming from. Maybe they have a very difficult life. And a good tool to use that I find very useful in my life, especially when I've spent time reviewing someone's chart and now I've formed some prejudgments about that person, is the doorknob check-in. At the door, I'll check myself to see what kind of prejudgments I'm carrying into the room, and I'll release them by reconnecting to compassion. If you're really feeling hateful and all that isn't working, then try doing the loving kindness meditation for a week. I remember when I was rotating through pediatrics in my residency, it was a very stressful time because I was used to adult medicine where everything is more or less controlled and goes along the plan. And then I get to pediatrics and there's kids everywhere and they're screaming and shouting and the parents aren't happy and nothing ever goes according to plan. So I really found it miserable to be there. And I noticed that over the course of many weeks, I was just starting to get more and more miserable about going into that clinic. So again, I remembered to stop suffering, and I thought of the tools I have in my pocket, and I thought of the loving kindness meditation. And I started to practice it every day for a week. And at the end of the week, I remember one of my supervisors saying to me, "You're different. You've become like the life of the party. Like, we appreciate having you here now." And that was just the cherry on top of remembering to use that meditation. Very powerful tool.